10 to 15 minutes drawing every day is a brilliant way to improve our drawing skills. It's far more effective than a much longer period of drawing much less frequently. And so this daily exercise example subject is a little woodland elf figure. It's not the sort of subject I normally draw, and so it's not the sort of subject you've seen on my videos. But having to find a subject every day, it's pushing me to go into wider directions as to the sorts of things I'm drawing, which I'm discovering is really interesting, but also stimulating to push in my own drawing skills. So drawing freehand in ink with a 0.2mm Copic multiliner pen, I decided to start across his brow and then to go down and complete his features and then work the rest of his head and his oaken headpiece around that. So I know the biggest challenge is going to be to keep all of the features compressed enough into a small enough area because of the foreshortening, because of the perspective of the viewpoint. Perspective is not just about buildings or blocks on horizon lines. It's the way something looks from a particular viewing position. And so looking down on this sculpture, we're seeing it from a bit of an affected angle. And part of that effect is to make the features look even closer together than they actually are. So I need to make sure I capture that in my drawing. In fact, I was so keen to capture it. But at this stage, I was thinking I may have actually, and I think I have, drawn the base of the nose just a little too close to the base of the eyes. I think I could have allowed another millimetre there. Now, I have a fair bit drawn now, so I'm able to align accurately, more accurately, the mouth than with some of the other features. But important is to look to see exactly how it aligns. So where is the centre of this chin under the mouth in relation to the nose, in relation to the eyes? I'm trying not to think of this as a face. I am trying to see the forms more as shapes, more as two-dimensional shapes, and to draw the shapes as I see them. That way, I'm not so affected by the distortion of the face. I'm not seeing a face, I'm seeing shapes that I'm trying to imitate, like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that fit together. Now, I don't want this to be a line drawing. Well, it is, but I'm wanting it to look as though it's representing a three-dimensional object. So I'm wanting to put a few little depth lines in. Now, you are actually seeing this at actual time. This took me 12 minutes to draw in real time, and you're seeing 12 minutes of drawing here. So this is as quick as it went. And so I think for that reason, it is actually a faster pace even on these exercises than I possibly normally draw. And I think it did result in a nice briskness and fluidity of line. So at this stage, it's looking like a very angry baby as far as I can tell. And so now I need to position some of the elements that are further apart. Again, careful observation and aligning what I'm drawing with what I've already drawn, and trying not to think of objects, but to think of shapes, so that I really limit myself to what I'm really seeing. And that way I'm not going to get tripped up by the perspective angle, the foreshortening of this particular subject. Now there's the hint of ears with the oak leaves framing. And there's something there that I'll leave. Now under the chin there are there is a spray of leaves just lying flat against the wall. And it took me a little while to work out how this fountain works, because normally we'd expect the water to spray out of the mouth of a figure such as this. And for a while I thought it was the acorn in the top center of the forehead or above the forehead. But then I realized there is a small pipe under the chin, which is where the water staining starts on this, probably, my guess, lead face. So I was afraid of making this face look a bit cute, so I was working hard to give it the rather fierce look of the subject. I may have made it look even more fierce. It looks like something out of a horror movie, I think, at the moment. Hopefully it will change a little bit in impact with the garland of oak leaves and acorns on top. Now, when I start to draw this, these leaves under the chin, fanning out in a bit of a spray effect, I actually, for some reason, stopped looking as carefully and thought, oh yes, I know what this is. And of course, as soon as I thought that, I didn't position my line correctly for the first thing I drew, and then that threw everything out. Now, I was fortunate, although this is often the case, I think, that in fact I was able to hide the incorrect lines amidst a little artistic license taken with the more correct ones. So in the end, the important thing is that this sits flat against the wall visually, and that the lowest point of it appears to center on the center of the chin if we were looking directly at it. So an adjustment, a movement to the left to allow for the fact that we're not looking straight at it. So as long as the overall silhouette lines up with where it should be on the wall, with the expectation that it is symmetrical around the face, but just sitting further back than the face, then it will look fine. And so now up towards the head and the garlands on the top. Now these, again, I'm resisting the urge to try and draw leaves and try and draw acorns. I'm really looking at the shapes, the shadows, and trying to do a simplified version of the shapes and the shadows with hatching and outline. And to my great relief, things seem to line up with the features reasonably well. As I said, this is not the sort of subject I think I've ever drawn before, but the skills that we learn, the techniques that we develop for drawing subjects with which we're more familiar, can be fairly readily applied to subjects we haven't seen before, or haven't drawn before, rather. So just looking at how things go on the other side here. Remember, this is real time that you're watching. And I've got to say, I've really enjoyed drawing this sculpture. I've had it ready to draw for quite a few weeks, and I've kept pushing it back because it's just not something I'm overly familiar with. And I've got to say, I had a lot of fun drawing it. So here we have the oak leaves on top, another acorn there, and a few more leaves. I'm not sure whether it's an advantage knowing what these subjects look like on the tree when we draw them in a context such as this, because it can delude us into thinking we don't need to observe what we're actually drawing as carefully. But particularly because this is a sculpture and we're looking down on it, then we are seeing, if you like, thicker, more blobbier versions of the actual items. Just sort of getting close to the end here, and this is where I either speed up and rush it or slow down incredibly, and either one I'm trying to avoid at this point, and just keep a nice consistent pace to the end. And again, I want to make sure that these leaves, because they come out at an angle on the left-hand side of his head, her head, I don't know what it is, I want to make sure that it balances the angle from a perspective point of view, that the corresponding leaves on the right side of the head of course, if I observe accurately and draw accurately what I see, it will. So now I'm just trying to get a little more of a sense of the three-dimensionality of this part on top. And realise I forgot a bit of the detail around the ear here. I possibly could have worked the hatching around the garlands more, although I like the fact that how I've done it or how I've left it does serve to emphasize the features more and bring us straight to this little elfin face, as cranky as it looks. And so this is where I'm thinking, oh, do I leave it? Do I leave it? What should I do? I decide just to do a hint of the wall, of the curvature of the wall. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, I hope you have a go drawing this, particularly if it's a sort of subject you think, oh, I don't draw faces, I couldn't do that, because that's exactly how I felt as I've put it off for the last few weeks. And I had so much fun drawing it. So why not give it a go? You'll find the photo, of course, on my channel community page. And you can print off a copy or just use it on the screen. But look, whatever you draw, however you draw it, I hope you have more fun than this fella seems to have at the moment. And I'll see you next time. Bye.